Hey boos, hey, welcome to our welcome back. Y'all, for today's video, is crazy. This lady is telling the story about how her auntie unalived her parents. Y'all, this story is so interesting, you're gonna wanna listen. And it's a long one, but it's a good one.
This is a story of how my auntie unalived my parents, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. So before I get into the story, I do want to say that I have some receipts and some pictures that I will be inserting throughout this video. So let's start. So both of my parents were born and raised in Ghana, and they initially met, in Ghana in the early 80s. And when they first met each other, I remember them both telling me that they instantly fell in love with each other. So fast forward into a few years, something happened in Ghana. I'm not really going to get into all of that, but something happened in Ghana and my mum and dad wanted to relocate and, just start afresh because Ghana wasn't the same Ghana that they grew up, knowing. So luckily enough for them, well, that's what they thought. My mum had two older sisters. I'm going to call them Sister One and Sister Two. So Sister One decided to send them an invitation letter to invite them down to London. So that's what they done. So everything went through, their documents went through, and they proceeded to go to London. So they arrived in London September 1986. They've moved in with Sister One. And, when they touched down London, first thing that they done was do up tourism. So, they went to central London, went to Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square, etc., etc. Just living it up, having fun. Like that was the first time that my mum has ever travelled. My dad's has travelled previously because he was a soldier when he was in Ghana, so he travelled when he was in the army, so travelling wasn't new to him. But for my mum, it was very exciting, like wow, she's in London. So now it's been a year since my mum and dad are living with Sister One, and she is in a serious relationship now, and her partner decides to move in with her. So now, you can imagine four grown adults sharing, a small space. It wasn't ideal for both of my parents plus Sister One. So Sister One and my mum and dad decided to, ask Sister Two if my mum and dad can move in with her because it was literally just her and her daughter at that time. Now she has four, but at that time it was just her and her daughter. So Sister Two was like, yeah, why not? Come and move in with me. So my mum and dad moved in with Sister Two. So things were going well, Sister Two and my mum catching up. Everything's going well. By the way, guys, I'm not going to be saying Sister One, Sister Two anymore because Sister One is now out of the picture. And I would just be saying my auntie or my mum's sister so that so that you don't get confused. So now my mum and dad have been in London for a while now, just over a year, and they're starting to get a bit bored now. Obviously, when they was in Ghana, they was always busy. Like I said, my dad was in the army, so he was always on his feet. My mum didn't really work, but she would accompany her siblings and sometimes go to the farm, so she was always busy. So, it was a big culture shock for the both of them, I would say. So yeah, they decided to have a talk with my auntie and see if they can start work. So they had that conversation with my auntie, and the first thing my auntie said is, no, basically my auntie laughed in their face first and said, do you know what it takes to work in London? And obviously they didn't know none the wiser, and she said, you are illegal immigrants and you don't have the status to work in the UK. So if you want to work, you would need to, require documents to work. So obviously my mum and dad were oblivious to how they can obtain all of that. And she came up with the idea of getting fake identities in order for them to work. So now the names that they used to work, they weren't actually fake, they were actually real people. So the name that my dad used was my mum's older brother's name because he already had his status within the UK. And the name my mum used was her brother's wife's name. So yeah, they used that and they managed to get jobs. So my mum was working as a cleaner for an airport, and my dad managed to get a cleaning job for a cleaning company. So they were both excited. They were like, yes, like, you know, they're finally, you know, getting somewhere. They're gonna achieve their goals. One of their goals was to buy a property and, you know, to move out of my auntie's house. So, you know, working hard, saving their money, and this is where hostility starts and jealousy started with my auntie. So my auntie started seeing that they're earning, you know, small money because my dad would offer to do shopping for the house, and he would give my auntie small money here and there, you know, to pay for a small bill here or a bill there. So she was like raising an eyebrow, like, these people have just come to the UK and now look at them. So she started acting weird towards them. I remember my mum used to say to me that she would try and spark up conversations with her sister, and her sister would just flatline ignore her. Like, she would just ignore her. She would not even acknowledge that my mum's talking to her. I remember my dad would tell me that there were times where she would just make little arguments with them. But upon all of this, they did not retaliate. My dad ignored it. And, you know, they just continued to put their head down and work hard. So I believe it was a year or two that has passed. My dad managed to get him a really good job as an underground train driver. And to be honest with you, like, I'm not making no excuses for my parents, but back in those days, a lot of Africans would come down to the UK, and because they thought that the UK was the land of opportunity, they would come down and obtain fake identities to work. Like, it wasn't a new thing. A lot of people were doing that. So yeah, so yeah, my dad managed to get him a really good job as an underground train driver, and honestly, my mum and dad were thrilled because they were like, yes, we're one step closer to our goals, to our dreams. And, you know, that was really important. And, you know, the focus for my dad really was to get out of my auntie's house because he really could not take the hostility, because my dad does not like hostility. He was such a friendly person. If you really knew him, like, he was so down to earth. So yeah, I'm just going to fast forward a little bit because there's a lot to this story. So I remember a time my dad told me that he was at work, and he came back home, and he went into his bedroom, and he noticed that certain things had been moved around. Things like his letters, amongst the letters was his pay slips, and he believed my auntie, you know, was the only culprit to do that. So he didn't say nothing. He just kept his head down, and he said to me it was like she wanted him to know she was snooping through his things. Why, I don't know, but, you know, those were some of the things that she would do, going through my dad's stuff, like just checking like how much he's getting paid and things like that. It was weird. It was very weird. But God being so good, they managed to get enough money to, you know, buy their first property, and that property was in Mitcham, which is in South London. So now the next thing that they had to do was sit my auntie down and tell her that, you know, they found somewhere and they want to move out. As you can imagine, my auntie didn't take it really well. She said to my parents that they're very ungrateful after everything that she's done for them. But, you know, my parents took every insult, everything that she said to them, and just said, thank you. Just thank you for everything you've done, basically, and deuces.
Usually when you move in with someone, the goal is to move out as fast as you can, so I thought. So what was the auntie expecting? Them to just stay there for the rest of their lives and be mistreated and let her talk to them any kind of way and make them uncomfortable the entire time they're there? I don't understand what she wanted from them.
So they left. and, you know, moved out and started their life, you know. Now they've achieved getting their property, their next step was to start a family. So my mum and dad were trying, you know, very hard to conceive, and unfortunately my mum suffered 2 miscarriages before she actually conceived me. So now she's pregnant with me, they're ecstatic, they're happy, everything's going, you know, right in their lives right now. So at this point, my parents and my auntie have not spoken. They do not speak. They've literally just gone their separate ways. That's it. So yeah, fast forward, my mum's, you know, at the last stage of her pregnancy. So she's in her 3rd trimester. And, you know, one day they're chilling at home and my dad said there was a massive knock at the door, like boom, boom, boom. And his heart just stopped. He was like, we're not expecting anybody, like no one really knows where they live. Yeah, so he was scared. So he literally got up. So as my dad was about to open the door just literally pushed him back. And who was it? It was police. So police were like, it's police, we're looking for Francis Pons, police, whatever. And then my dad he was scared. He was like, oh, it's me, like, what's going on? So the police was like, oh, Mr. Apong, you've been arrested for, you know, dishonesty, obtaining a property by deception or something along them lines. I can't really remember what it was. But yeah, my dad was so scared. He was frightened. My mum, heavily pregnant, was in tears, like just scared. They were both scared. So as the police officer was about to take the handcuffs and pull it on my dad was like, whoa, wait, let's talk about this. Let's try and resolve this. But no, the police officers was not having none of it, and they literally slammed my dad down. And as the police officers slammed my dad down, he sprained his arm and he sustained a few injuries as well. It was really, really hectic for my parents. So yeah, both of my parents were arrested, you know, for that charge, and they were both taken away to prison. So my dad was taken to Wormwood Scrubs, and my mum was taken to Holloway female prison, and I believe that closed down in 2016 actually. So yeah, my dad spent 6 weeks at Wormwood and my mum spent 3 weeks at Holloway. So whilst they were in prison, my mum and dad used to always write to each other, especially my dad. And my dad used to write to my mum more, you know, checking on her well-being, checking on the pregnancy, how I'm doing. Mind you, my mum was a month away from giving birth because, you know, she was in prison in October and gave birth to me in November. So yeah, this was all happening whilst my mum was in a vulnerable state. So you can imagine her state of mind. You know, even my dad, like not getting to physically hold his wife, talk to his wife, you know, see the development, the growing of the bump, even though it's the last trimester, like every little thing counts. So yeah, in one of the letters, my dad wrote to my mum and said that he found out who was behind all of this, because basically my mum and dad managed to get lawyers when they were in prison, and my dad's lawyer obviously had to get all the witness statements and stuff like that for the case. And the first witness statement that, you know, was handed to the lawyer was my auntie's statement. And the lawyer relayed this information back to my dad and told him all the names that was involved. And yeah, my dad was in shock. He was in utter shock. So in the letter, he tells my mum that so-and-so was behind it, meaning my auntie was behind it, due to her jealousy of them purchasing the house. And he would never ever forgive them. Like, he would never ever forgive them. But not only that, my auntie got others involved, and those others were, you know, friends. My parents thought they were their friends involved. So it was like a little ring of them, and my auntie was the ringleader. So yeah, it's it was very, very devastating for my parents to know that, you know, my mum's own sister could do this to her and her husband. Not only that, but my dad managed to get, you know, my auntie's witness statement. I would insert it in this video, but the only problem is it is very, very old. Like, the writing, you can't really see the writing, it's all faded. But yeah, but I do have it. I do have it. So now at this point, both of my parents' mental health were declining, especially my mum's, and you know, things were just getting worse and worse. And my mum, 3 weeks came up, and my mum finally got released. And literally a few days later, my mum gave birth to me. So now my mum's been released and she has nowhere to go because obviously they've taken the house from my mum and dad. So now my mum is homeless. She has little money left. So she decides to get on a bus and just take it to the last stop. She had no plans on what to do. Obviously, she has no one to talk to, no one to reach out to. So she just gets on the bus up until the last stop, and she kept doing that for a couple of hours. Within those hours, she started getting pains in her tummy, and obviously that was the start of contractions. So she decides to get on a bus to go to the hospital so that she can find out what's going on. So my mum arrives at the hospital and now it's time for her to get checked over. So the midwife checks her over and she wasn't exactly at the, you know, 4 centimeters dilation point, but her vitals were very high. So for example, her blood pressure, etc. So because of that, they had to admit her into hospital. And 2 days later, that's when she gave birth to me. She had a C-section. She had to stay in the hospital for up to a week with me. So that was the case. So once the week came up, my mum and myself was discharged. So after she got discharged with me, she still had, you know, the keys to the property. Remember, they've taken the property away from her, so she couldn't go back there. But she still had the keys, and you know, she's just given birth. She has nowhere to go. It's winter. It's cold. So what does she do? She ends up going to the property. So she puts the key through to see if, you know, if it still works and if they haven't changed the locks. So now she's put the key through the door and the key still works, the door's open. But as you can imagine, there's no gas, there's no electric, the house is freezing. Like I said, it was winter times and my mum had no money, and obviously she had to feed me. She couldn't breastfeed me because she wasn't really eating herself, so she couldn't really produce breast milk. So what she done was she got a crisis loan, and a crisis loan is something that they used to do back in the days where they give you emergency money if you're in a vulnerable state or if you're a vulnerable person. So that's what my mum done, and she received £10, and that £10 had to sustain her for a while. So she couldn't actually buy me formula because that was expensive. So what she decided to do was buy me baby food. You can imagine, I'm a newborn baby. I have 3 kids myself. I'm a mother myself. All the mothers out there, you know that you can't give food or baby food to a newborn. Like at that stage, it's literally only milk. They can't even drink water. So yeah, that's what she was feeding me. Remember, no electric, no gas. So she couldn't even warm up the food to give me. So she was literally feeding me cold baby food out of the jar. So one evening, my mum said she felt so low, so vulnerable. She felt like she wasn't herself. So she literally put me in a sling and left the house. She got on a bus and once again, just kept going to the last stop, again, another one going to the last stop until she just felt so low about herself that she just didn't want to be here anymore. And she just wanted to end it all because what is she really living for? And that was her frame of mind at that time. She started walking towards a busy road, and a lady from afar could see my mum. So the lady saw my mum from afar, and she noticed that my mum wasn't in the right state of mind just from her body language. So as my mum was approaching the road, the lady literally ran and stopped my mum, and my mum broke down and just started saying everything as if she knew this lady. But my mum said she just had no one to talk to, so she literally just vented everything out. So the lady was so lovely to my mum. She got my mum a bed and breakfast for that night, and in the morning my mum told me that she followed the lady and sorted emergency accommodation out. And yeah, the lady just helped her so much. So once all of that was sorted and she moved into the emergency accommodation, she said it was very lonely. It was a very, very lonely. She was so scared. She had no one to talk to. But luckily enough, my dad's lawyer found a way to communicate with my mum. I'm not sure how though. I don't remember my mum telling me how that happened. But the lawyer found a way to communicate with my mum, and my dad and my mum got into communication again. So a few weeks later, my dad was released from prison, and he joined my mum and myself at the emergency accommodation. So now they are back to square one. Things are just looking so low for them, so dark for them. And honestly, my dad was a fighter, but honestly, that took a lot out of him. And that's when the beginning of him not having trust for people started. So yeah, they was building their life slowly. I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit because there's so much to this story. But yeah, they were building their life slowly. So from emergency was temporary accommodation. I believe it was the second temporary accommodation that we had is when my mum and dad gave birth to my brother, and after that we moved into our permanent. I believe I was like 11 or 12. I can't really remember the age that I was when we settled into our permanent accommodation. But yeah, we finally settled into our permanent accommodation, and that's when my parents were like, listen, no more bad luck, no more negativity. We're gonna strive and we're gonna do it. And that's when my dad decided to go back into education and study to become a mental health nurse. So my dad, you know, achieved that, and he started as a mental health nurse. I believe he started in 2005. Yeah, I believe he started as a mental health nurse in 2005. And once again, my dad is a hard worker, so you know, he put his head down, working hard, just trying his hardest to get back on track. So now things are looking up, and you know, my dad is sending money back home to Ghana and building his property out there, because obviously his retirement plan is him and my mum retire and go back to Ghana and just live life. So he was sending money home back to Ghana and getting his house built, and he built a lovely 5-bedroom bungalow in Ghana, which was one of his biggest, you know, proudest achievements that he done. So yeah, I believe my auntie got a whiff of this and was extremely upset. She was angry the fact that my mum and dad have managed to pick themselves up. You know, my dad's built his 5-bedroom bungalow back home. He's also helped my mum's family, you know, build their family house. So all of that was raging inside of her. Unfortunately, around this time, my mum started having little symptoms here and there, and unfortunately she got diagnosed with end-stage kidney failure. I believe that was around 2008. So then my mum started to have treatment, which is dialysis, 3 times a week for 4 hours. So it was draining. And I remember my dad would, you know, encourage my mom, you know, the pep talk, whatnot, but you could see in his face that he was also worried, but obviously he tried not to show this. So yeah, my mum was going through a tough time, you know. Me and my brother saw my mum go in and out of hospital. Obviously I was a teenager around that time, so I wasn't really coping with all of this too well, so I would try my best to stay out as much. My brother was like 7 years younger than me, so he had no choice but to stay at home. So he witnessed a lot of my mum going in and out of hospital. So it was a normal day, and usually my mum calls back home to Ghana to speak to her family, especially her niece. So this niece, her mum is my mum's older sister. That's another sister of my mum's, but she passed away a few years ago. So yeah, she called, was speaking to her niece as usual, but then this conversation was kind of different. So my mum's niece suggested that she would love to donate a kidney to my mum, and honestly my mum was overwhelmed. She was shocked. You know, someone loves her so much to donate a kidney. She was honestly so overwhelmed. They have a really good relationship because my mum and dad, you know, looked after her growing up, and my dad also put all of her kids through school, was paying their school fees, you know, so they really had a strong relationship. My mum's niece, you know, called my mum, called my dad. She even changed her surname to my dad's name, Opong. So, you know, there was a lot of love there. So my mum and dad thought anyways. She didn't give an answer straight away when she spoke to my niece that day, but what she did say is that she would speak to my dad and then, you know, come back to her about it, and also she does need to discuss this with my niece's mum as well. So now she's gone away and started discussing this with my dad. My dad was very hesitant. Would you blame him, considering what my auntie done to him, you know? So he was very hesitant, but my mum spoke him round, and in the end he accepted and went with it. Then they also spoke to my cousin's mum, and she gave the thumbs up and was like, yep, she accepts. So yeah, they started the process, and I believe the NHS, you know, was involved as well, and they offered her a medical visa to come to London to do the transplant for my mum. So once everything went through, all the documents went through, she came to London in the year of 2010. So when she arrived, everything was well. Like I could see like my mum being happy, you know, smiling, and my mum and dad knew that, you know, when someone comes from abroad and, you know, the tourism, they've done all the tourism that they can, they start becoming bored because they've been through it. So they decided to get a job for my cousin, and my cousin is a really good hairdresser back in Ghana because she went to hairdressing school. That's something that my mum and dad put her through. And there was a hair salon at the bottom of my mum and dad's road. My mum and dad knew the owner very, very well. And my dad decided to have a talk with the owner and was like, listen, my niece has come from Ghana. She just wants to do a little part-time job, you know, just to earn a little bit of money so she's able to send money back home to her 3 kids. So the owner was like, oh, yeah, fine, why not? Then she started working at the hair salon. So now, you know, everything's going well, everything's going fine. So now this is where things started changing. At first, when appointments was being made, my cousin would follow, you know, my mum, go for the checkups. You know, everything was going fine until one day she started slacking. So when it was time for an appointment or whatever, my cousin would be like, oh, my body hurts, or I've got a headache, or, you know, just slacking. But My mum didn't really say anything. What she did say is to my cousin that, is she sure that she really wants to do it? If not, she's not going to be upset. She's not going to be angry. She should just let her know. So then one day came and we got a letter through the post, and it was a letter from St. Heliers Hospital stating that my cousin has been here for a while and her medical visa is running out, and it looks like she's not willing to do the procedure, so it's time for her to go back to Ghana. And if she refuses, then they're deporting her back. So she's read this, my mum and dad have, like, everyone's reading it. So my mum looks at her and says, this is the outcome. We have to start getting ready for you to go back to Ghana. And then this is when things went left. My cousin's attitude started changing, like slowly. So she would be coming home late from work, and mind you, the salon to my mum's house is like a 3-minute walk, if not that. Do you get what I'm saying? So there was no excuse to be coming home like an hour late or an hour and a half late. So, but my mum and dad, they didn't really say nothing. They were thinking, do you know what? She could have made friends at, you know, the hair salon, so let's not really think too much into it. Until one day my mum had a dream where I believe a dog bit her leg. I think it was a dog that bit her left leg, to be precise. I want you guys to remember the left leg, right? Okay, so she had a dream, a dog bit her left leg, and she woke up with a massive scream. And when she woke up, there was a bite on her left leg. Crazy, I know, but there was actually a bite on her left leg. And I remember from there on, my mum started having really bad pains in her leg, and my mum will be laying down on the living room floor, and me, my brother, my dad, my cousin, and my first son, we would all be in the living room, and my mum will be in pain. We're all like, oh mum, oh, like rubbing her. My cousin will be sitting there like this. No flinch and nothing. She wouldn't even acknowledge my mum like she was in pain. Nothing, guys, honestly. So anyways, that would happen. And then one day now, it was time for her to come home from work. An hour turned into 2 hours turned into 3 hours turned into 4. By the time we blinked, it was 12 midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. She's nowhere to be found. In that time frame, my dad has gone to the salon like 5 times. Do you get what I'm saying? And the people in the salon are saying, oh, she left time ago. Like, she left time ago. Anyways, now we've all gone to bed, woken up, she's still not back. So my mum and dad now are getting worried because obviously she's in their care. My mum and dad are calling around, panicking. No one knows where she is. Things aren't looking good. So now I want to fast forward a little bit. So a few months, I believe it was like 7-8 months down the line after my cousin disappeared, it was me and my dad and my son at home. I was literally washing my son's bottles in the kitchen, and in my mum and dad's house where the kitchen is, there's a window, and that window you can see outside. So I could see people circling my dad's car. It was 2 men and 1 woman, just circling my dad's car, just, you know, looking very suspicious, but they wasn't in uniform or anything. They were in their own clothes. And then I saw that they started approaching the front door. So as they were about to approach the front door, I called to my dad because my dad was upstairs getting ready for work. So as I was saying, oh dad, there's a few people circling your car, the doorbell went. So as I went to go and open the door, they were like, hi, we're looking for Francis Afong. And I'm like, oh, who are you? And they were like, oh, is he in? And then I'm like, daddy, someone's looking for you. So he's come down the stairs now and they're like, hi, are you Francis Opong? And he was like, yeah, I'm Francis Opong. And they were like, sir, you're under arrest for and human trafficking of body parts. And honestly, I just wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Like, so after my dad got arrested and put in handcuffs, I literally was walking around like a headless chicken, like shaking. And I remember they said something into their radio and I just see a police van pull up and put my dad in the car and literally go off. So I was like, what in the is going on? So then I've got my phone, I've managed to, you know, calm myself down, and I've called my mum. At this time, my mum, she was at dialysis. So I've called her and I've told her everything, and she's panicking. She's like, oh my gosh, like what? Who would have accused daddy of doing this? Like, yeah, we was just, yeah, it was crazy. So anyways, now I said to my mum that I'm gonna come down to the hospital, and then after her dialysis treatment, we go to every police station near us and try and get to the bottom of this. So I've put my son in his jacket, I've got myself ready, and we've gone to the hospital to go and meet my mum. So met up with my mum now, and we've gone to each and every police station that we can think of near us, and no one is telling us anything. We don't know where my dad is. We're literally just panicking, and you know, my mum was like, you know what, she's tired, and I could understand, because she's literally just done a 4-hour treatment of dialysis. She hasn't rested. I've just thrown this in her lap. So yeah, we went home and we was just waiting for hours and hours. Then the key, we heard it turn, and my dad just looked so deflated. He looked like, I don't know. Yeah. It was hard. It was really, really difficult, like seeing my dad looking like that. So yeah, he's come in now, and my mum's instantly said, what's going on? What happened? And then my dad was like, so-and-so, meaning my mum's niece, my cousin, is the one that has accused me of this. And honestly, the silence in that room was heavy. It was very, very heavy. And then I remember thinking in my head, like, why would she do that? Like, why? What on earth would come over after everything my parents has done for you, your kids? Why on earth are you going to do that?
That little wench did that because no good deed goes unpunished. You can give and give and give to people, but the moment you say no, they want to act like you've done nothing for them. They want to get revenge on you just because you can't help them anymore. You don't have the resources that they need or want from you anymore. People can be so selfish, self-absorbed, and evil at times.
Anyways, now, so the next day came and my dad was getting ready for work. So as he got to work, his line manager pulled him aside, and this is where things just turned left. Pulled him aside and said, police have, you know, called and informed us of what's going on. And unfortunately, this is a serious matter, and they have to suspend my dad. So my dad was gutted. He was devastated. He couldn't understand why this was happening. So he's been suspended now, and things are not looking good. You know, he's having meetings with his work, and his work is saying that unless, you know, he's found not guilty, he's not coming back to work. So yeah, and you know, going back and forth to this trial, to the courts, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I remember my dad saying to me that one time when he was on his way to his court hearing, he saw my mum's sister, yes, my auntie. He saw her standing at the entrance of that court. He put 2 and 2 together, and that 2 and 2, it equaled what? 4. He said, what? He said, this is making sense now. This is all making sense. Anyways, now, he was going back and forth to his court hearings and everything. Honestly, within that time frame, my dad's mental health declined drastically. He was in and out of the GP. He was diagnosed with depression, and honestly, it was so hard to see, because with African men, they don't usually talk about their feelings. Like, they will internalize everything, and that is what my dad done. He internalized every single thing that my auntie and my cousin put him through, that it essentially, it unalived him. You know, the hurt, the pain, it literally was destroying his heart. So anyways, now, after, you know, fighting this case, the case was dismissed. My dad was found innocent, thank God, because every time my cousin said that my dad her, he was at work, or he was either picking up my mum from dialysis. You see how God works? Because the police had to get all of his work schedule, timetable, every single footprint of my dad. They had to get it. And none of it was equaling to what my cousin was even saying that was happening. So the judge was like, let's throw this out, man, wasting our time. And because of that, my cousin was going to get deported to Ghana. But what did she do? She faked insanity. And then she had to stay. She had to stay in the UK. And do you know what gets on my nerves? She's able to get on with her life, live in the UK, whilst my dad had to start all over again. So yeah, my dad was able, you know, to go back to work, but at a different branch. Even though the case was dismissed, even though he was found innocent, that tarnished his reputation. Like, everywhere he went, it just tarnished his reputation. And honestly, it broke my dad. It broke my dad. It broke my dad to the point, yeah, that I never saw my dad happy again. Like, he was always snappy, and he just was not himself anymore. So after everything, my dad, you know, wanted a break. He literally wanted a break from everything. And in 2015, he decided to take us all to Ghana. So we went to Ghana, and, you know, a time was had. Like, we had a really good time. We literally forgot about everything, you know, that was happening in London. But no, things always have to find their way, you know, to follow us. So we've gone to go and see my mum's family now, and all my mum's cousins and her siblings are all shocked, like you're walking, like, oh my gosh, you look good, like, oh, all of us were like, what is going on? Like, why is everyone acting all shocked? Until my mum's cousin called her into, you know, their rooms and was like, can we see if it's your real legs? And my mum was so confused. but she lifted, because she was wearing a long skirt, and she lifted her skirt up and she was like, yeah, look, they're my legs. So they both screamed. They were like, hey, so it's not true. And my mum was like, what's not true? And they said my mum's sister, my auntie, she started spreading around the family that my mum's leg was amputated. And this was in 2015. So remember what I've just said to you. She has told my mum's family, yeah, their family, that my mum is very sick, my mum is not able to walk, and they've resorted to amputating her legs, right? Cool. So we're all in shock, like, what is this woman's problem? Like, isn't she tired? Because me, I'm even tired. Like, isn't she, what does she want? Anyways, now, we didn't let that ruin our holiday. We carried on. So we've come back now and we have to, you know, get back to reality. My mum's going dialysis, everything, you know, is back to normal. So fast forward to 2019 now, my mum started feeling, you know, some pains in her left leg. And then those pains started turning into different symptoms, and then her left leg unfortunately got infected. So her left leg, when it was getting infected, it was turning really black. So from her feet all the way up to below the knee was just all black. And obviously the doctors was like, listen, it's either we amputate your leg or you will lose your life. And I remember the first thing that came to my head when I heard that amputation was 2015. Auntie said amputation. Oh my gosh, like so many things was just going through my head at that precise time. I was shaking. I was like, what? Anyways, so yeah, my mum had to get an amputation, and they amputated her leg below the knee. So after the operation, things was meant to go well, but unfortunately there was still some infection left around the knee area where my mum's amputation happened. So now they've had to cut above the knee. So now they're doing a second procedure above the knee. And this is where the doctor pulled my dad aside and was like, sir, listen, this is a 50-50 chance, because, you know, this is, you know, it's dangerous. Like we're amputating the same area again, twice, if that makes sense. So, you know, I remember my dad, me, my brother were in the corridor. My dad was worried, like the colour in his face was all drained. Like we was just all nervous. But at that time, all I just kept thinking of was 2015 amputation, auntie, 2015 amputation, auntie. That's all that kept coming to my head. So anyways, my mum's second procedure went really well, thank God. And she started her rehabilitation process. And that was so hard. Like imagine seeing your mum being able to now being disabled. Like it was just, it mentally messed me up around that time. Like it was so hard. And then you know, my mum having to relearn everything again, and you know, trying to process her new life, or you know, it was so difficult. Like my dad having to try and pick my mum up now and put her in her wheelchair, or move her from her wheelchair to the bed. Like it was just so much on my dad, like so much. But my dad was such a trooper. He never gave up, and he stuck with my mum. Like he done well. He done really well. But yeah, so fast forward once again, you know, they're getting on with their new normal life now, or should I say, we're all as a family trying to get on with our new normal life, helping out our mum, trying to sort things out. So it's the year 2020. You guys know what happened. It was COVID. the whole world went into lockdown and no one was allowed out. So I remember all I was doing was watching documentaries. I was literally hooked on documentaries, right? And there was one particular documentary that I watched, and it literally made me start thinking and reminiscing about, you know, family and me not talking to my cousins, meaning my auntie's children. So I decided to send a DM to my boy cousin. So I've sent him a long DM, you know, just telling him that I've watched this documentary, it's got me thinking, life's too short, etc, 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 right? You know, he responds and the conversation's flowing, and then he says that he will get back to me with a date where we can all have you know, a Zoom meeting to sort things out. So, you know, we left it on a positive note, so I thought, and I'm still waiting till this day for this Zoom meeting to happen. I understand why it was a Zoom meeting then, because it was COVID times, but now we don't need to be doing Zoom meetings. Like, I'm not living 6 hours away, like we're literally minutes apart, do you understand? But anyways, that's another story. So around that time too, I sent the same message I sent to my boy cousin to my girl cousin. And once again, the conversation was flowing, you know, we was getting to know each other again. She told me that she gave birth, what her daughter's name was, and all of that, you know, it was really nice. I can't really remember how it ended, but I will insert the screenshots. But what I remember is I got left on red, I think I didn't even get a response back after a while. But yeah, anyways, now moving on, a year later, which is 2021. You know, one day, I'm fast forwarding to the year of 2021, January. It was a normal day. My dad was taking my mum to her normal checkup. She usually has monthly checkups at St. Helios Hospital, where they check her kidney function to check and see if everything's going okay. And so yeah, it was a normal day. I believe it was on a Thursday. So yeah, my dad didn't have work, so he decided to take my mum to her appointment. So whilst they were at the appointment, or just before the appointment finished, sorry, I tried to call my dad, but he didn't pick up. So I left it for like 5 minutes, and then I called my mum, and then my mum said to me, oh, we've just had my appointment, daddy's about to put me in a car and we're coming home, so when I get home I'll call you, and then you and the kids can come round. So I was like, all right, cool, that's fine, sounds like a plan. So now an hour's passed, an hour and a half's passed, and I'm like, I haven't heard from my mum, what's going on? And she usually is really good with her timekeeping. So I've called my mum now, and I'm like, mummy, I'm still waiting. And she was like, Chris, I'm still waiting in the car. And I'm like, okay, so where's daddy? She was like, he's put me in a car and he said he's going to use the toilet, and I'm still here. And I said, so haven't you called him? She was like, I've called him, he hasn't picked up. So I'm like, this is unlike daddy. So I'm like, all right, cool, let me try and sort this out. Got off the phone to her, trying to call my dad, he's not picking up. Calling him again, he's not picking up. So I'm like, this is unlike him, what's going on? Like, you know, mummy's vulnerable, why would you leave her in a car? It's winter, it's January, come on, you know, UK weather. So now I said to myself, let me call my brother, because at that time my brother was working like 5-10 minutes away from St. Helios Hospital. So I've called him now, explained everything to him, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna go and see what's going on. So he's got into the car park now. My mum's explained everything to him, and he said, all right, cool, let me go and find the security guard and let's try and locate where daddy is. So my brother, security guard, they've done all of that. They can't find my dad. Time's passing, is like 4 getting to 5 now, and you know, it's cold. So my dad had the key, so obviously my brother couldn't take the car, so we've had to leave my dad's car unlocked at St. Heliers Hospital car park. My brother got a Uber for my mum to go home, and he followed behind in his car. So now they've got into my mum's house now, and I've literally met them there because I live a road away from my parents' house at that time. So I've gone to meet them now, and we're all confused. We're like, what happened? I'm even saying to my mum, mummy, like, are you telling me the truth? She's like, Chris, what have I got to lie about? So anyways, now time's passed. I think it was like an hour has passed. The doorbell has rang. I've opened the door and it's 2 police officers. So in my head, I'm like, what is going on? Allegedly, what has he done? Because at this point, I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing police. I'm tired of them accusing my dad of things. Like, I'm tired. Anyways, now police were like, hi, is this the residence of Francis Apong? I'm like, yes, it is. What's going on? Then they proceeded to say, can you tell the children to go upstairs, which was my 2 kids, my son and my daughter. So I was like, all right, cool. My brother took them upstairs, and then they dropped the worst news ever. They said, unfortunately, we found Francis Apong in the toilet, unalived, like, yeah. So my dad was laying there for 4 hours, like, whilst I was panicking, even getting angry at the fact that he's left my mum, he was there on the toilet floor in the hospital, unalived. Like, do you know? Anyways, so I let out the biggest scream ever. Never experienced someone that I love die, so that was my first ever experience. So like, I went through a roller coaster of emotions, like in the space of 5 minutes. I screamed. Yeah, I was all over the place. I was all over the place. Then I remember calling my cousin from my dad's side, and just saying to her, listen, this is what's happened. Then she's crying. Like, it was very traumatizing. I remember my mum sitting there saying, no, it's not true. Nope, it's not true. Like, that's the noise she was doing. Like, if you're Ghanaian, you will understand that noise. Like, she was like, nope, She says she will never believe it until she sees that it's him. Obviously, she couldn't go to view my dad. I had to go and identify my dad, and that was so scary. Like, I was shaking. Like, it was so, seeing my dad in that state and knowing my dad to be a strong man, like, but yeah, I identified his body, and I said, yeah, that's my dad. And they gave me his things, and I drove his car back home, and that car journey felt like 2-3 hours, and it was only like a 30-minute drive. But it was so, I felt so low. And honestly, in that moment, I wanted to drive to my auntie's house. I wanted to just take everything out on her. She was the reason. I don't care what anyone says. She was the reason why my dad is no more. After all the heartache, after all the suffering my dad went through because of her lies, because of my cousin's lies, both of them are the reason why my dad is no more.
I'm with her 100% on this one, because I genuinely feel like stress can unalive a person. Having too much weighing on you and your mind just never at ease and your body tense and stressed out all the time can literally take a toll on your mental health and your organs, believe it or not. So, yeah, I can't necessarily blame Auntie because obviously we don't have the full-blown proof to say that, oh, this person did it. But if you spiritual, you know what's up, boo.
Because they mentally and emotionally unalived him. Because his heart couldn't take it no more. So the week of my dad's passing, I was going through his things, like his paperwork and just stuff, you know, to start arranging things for the funeral. And then I came across like a massive pile of, you know, receipts, stories that, you know, that he's been telling me throughout, you know, my life. So I was reading it, and then, you know, emotions were starting to build up within me, because obviously everything that my mum and dad have been telling me, I'm now seeing it in front of me. And yeah, I was upset, I was angry. So I decided to send a message to my girl cousin, and I said to her, listen, I'm just so disappointed in you and your siblings and how you guys are just managing this whole situation. All me and my brother want is just for us to meet up and just talk things through and just be grown about this, you know. This is not our beef, this is our parents' beef, and it's ridiculous that we've taken this on. So I've sent her this and she's responded straight away. I think saying something along the lines of she saw the message but it's not coming up on her phone. But she basically said that it's an issue that I need to sort out with him, meaning her brother, because obviously, like I said, brother didn't respond back with, you know, a meeting or Zoom date or whatever he wanted to arrange. So I took that to heart, like. So she said what she's had to say in the message, and I've just had to like respond back saying, listen, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna insert it so you can read it for yourself, but that was my response, and I just got left on scene. She didn't even respond back. So yeah, so this all happened on the 13th of January of 2021, and the next day, which was the 14th of January, we had a 1 week, which is something that Ghanaians usually do when someone passes away. We will hold a 1 week, a week after the person has passed, with the family to arrange, you know, funeral dates and whatever. So that was happening at my parents' house. The 1 week, you know, family came over, we was discussing funeral arrangements and what to do, etc. And then the doorbell rang. I can't remember who opened the door because it definitely was not me, but someone opened the door, and lo and behold, guess who was standing there? My mum's sister. Yeah, my auntie. So my auntie's come through the door now, and before you get into my living room, there's like a little corridor before you enter my living room. So she's walked through the corridor and she's standing by the entrance of the living room. So everyone literally has turned their head and is looking at my auntie. You can imagine how everyone was feeling. There were so many different emotions in that room. I, for one, was really, really shocked. So she proceeded to come inside and she sat down on the sofa, and opposite the sofa was where my mum was sitting in her wheelchair. And honestly, my mum didn't utter a word. All my mum done was just burst into tears. So my mum was just crying, you know, people were trying to console her. And all my auntie kept doing was just making noises like, That's all she just kept doing. I would also like to note that what my auntie was wearing wasn't, you know, something that you would wear to visit your sister that's just lost her husband. Basically, she was wearing jeans and trainers. Like, I'm not saying it's mandatory to wear black, but, you know, make some effort. So anyways, now she's just sitting there making those noises, and she literally was there for 20 to 25 minutes. And she said to my mum that, she's going to take her leave, and then she just left. So I believe she came to see if it's really true that my dad has passed away, and she got her answer. So she left. So moving on to the following month, which was February, that was the month of my dad's funeral. It was a really, really tough month. So before the funeral directors were so amazing, you know. They allowed my mum to come and say her last goodbyes to my dad because, like I said previously, she wasn't able to view my dad's body. So I'm gonna insert the picture of my mum, you know, saying her last goodbye to my dad, and that was so hard to watch because at that precise time, all that was going through my mind is all the conversations my mum and dad used to have in presence of me and my brother, of their plans and their goals and ambition to, you know, their retirement plan and them going back to Ghana. And yeah, man, yeah, it was hard. It was so hard. It was so hard, like, honestly, seeing my mum processing all of, you know, what was going on. But anyways, we gave him the befitting funeral that he deserved. That day was so beautiful. It was so, so beautiful. So we've buried my dad now, and you can only imagine how hard it was to get back, you know, to our normal lives. Seeing my mum trying to cope without my dad, it was so difficult because my mum and dad were together for nearly 40 years before he passed. So you can imagine the amount of hurt and pain that my mum was going through. So due to all of that, her health started declining very, very drastically. And from being wheelchair bound, she became bed bound. She couldn't even sit up. She always had to lay down. So that's why she was bed bound. She started feeling weakness in her arms, her hands. Her sight was starting to go, you know, so her prescriptions in her glasses were very, very strong. So because my mum became bedbound and her health was declining, social services had to get involved, meaning adult social services, you know, to assess my mum and see her needs, etc. So they got involved and they said that my mum needs 24-hour care because of the extent of, you know, her condition. So carers were allocated to my mum morning, noon and evening on rotation. So they would come and help my mum in the morning or help my mum get ready for dialysis, and then transport will come and pick my mum up and take her to dialysis and so on and so forth. So that was happening until one day my mum got a really, really bad infection in her back, and I believe that was due to her being bedbound because at that point she was literally in one position. So you can imagine the damage that was doing to her body. So yeah, so the infection in my mum's back was getting really worse, and you know, social services once again and a few other healthcare professionals got involved and said, do you know what, your mum needs to be moved into a specialised home. And guys, honestly, when they told us that news, meaning me and my brother, that's when I lost all hope, because I was like, why is this happening? Like, my dad's gone. Now my mum's health is declining so bad. Like, I was really tired, guys. Honestly, I was tired. I was drained. You know, on numerous occasions when my mum got moved to this home, I had to, you know, attend so many meetings with, you know, these social workers and healthcare professionals. So whenever we would be in these meetings and they would show like my mum's condition, so like pictures, and explain what my mum is going through and stuff, it would just take me back, you know, to everything my mum and dad endured in the hands of my auntie and my cousin. So anyways, now my mum is in this home. I believe she was in the home for 6 months, and one day, like normal, they took her to dialysis on the Thursday, and where she has dialysis is St. Helios Hospital. So she went dialysis, and unfortunately her blood pressure was really, really low, and then she became unconscious, and they had to put my mum on oxygen, and me and my brother were just hoping and praying that my mum would pull through. But unfortunately, on the 9th of November 2024, just 3 days before my birthday, my mum passed away. And the fact that me and my brother witnessed my mum taking her last breath will stay with me forever. So after my mum passed, me and my brother had to, you know, come up with funds in order for us to bury her. So we decided to do a GoFundMe page, and I posted it up on my stories on Instagram, and I looked at who viewed, you know, my stories, and who do I see? My girl cousin viewing the story. It really shocked me because I didn't get no, you know, condolence message from her, even though she saw, you know, that I just lost my mum. And I didn't get no message from her siblings, nothing whatsoever. And it really, really hurts me to know that I have cousins out there, first cousins at that, that, you know, don't want nothing to do with me and my brother. For what reason? I can't tell you. I don't even know why. They've taken on their mother's beef and taken it as if it's their own beef. And you're beefing your cousins that have nothing to do with it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Girl, first off, why do you even care about knowing or speaking to those people? It'd be F them, F they mama, and they grandma for making them. Maybe it's just all the BS I've experienced over the years that gave me this F everybody attitude, but I can care less what family and friends are doing, and I can care even more less of what they think about me. I genuinely wouldn't want to talk to nobody connected to that side of the family. But that's just my mean ass opinion. What's y'all thoughts on this though? Do you even believe in witchcraft? Do you think the auntie and the cousin really did stress her parents to RIP? Or do you think people just get old and hell, their health just start declining? I think it could be both, but all that extra bullcrap and the lies that they put on the father to have him imprisoned is definitely some type of work of the devil. And like I said before, unnecessary stress can and will eventually start taking a toll on your organs. Have you ever met anybody this wicked? Do you feel like you might be surrounded by someone who is this wicked? Do you believe in witchcraft and magic and voodoo and all that stuff? Tell me down below, y'all. Do y'all think that the parents just had bad luck or the auntie was the devil? The devil herself. Let me know right now, y'all. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget that I love you more than life itself. And I'm going to catch you in the next one, boo. Okay?